Senator Rounds.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Director Vought, welcome.
Thank you.
You're on the hot seat today. This is my first time around with the appropriations process. Normally, I'm on one of the authorizing committees, which you then, the first of two in the process, you authorize and then you appropriate. And the appropriations should follow the authorizations, and that's the reason why I wanted to get on this particular committee. That and the fact that, as you noted earlier, continuing resolutions do not work. They are an effort after everything else fails. But along with that, and one of the reasons why we're having the discussion today is because coming out of the Senate, it takes 60 votes to get any appropriations process out, which means there's going to be things in this bill that neither I care for, that you wouldn't care for, but that some of my friends on the other side of the aisle do. And it is an agreement that we make. When the president signs that bill into law, it is an acceptance that they acknowledge that there's been a deal made. I also understand that you're doing this legally and correctly in asking us to look at a rescission. So you're doing it exactly the way that you're supposed to be doing this. What I want to know, and what I'd like to talk about a little bit is first of all, I've got two specifics. And then once I'm done with those, I want to talk a little bit about what the philosophy should be for this committee moving forward so that we can have this actually work and we don't end up in another continuing resolution. We actually get an agreement here and members of this committee feel as though their concerns will be met next year. So first of all, we have Native American radio stations in South Dakota. They get their funding through NPR. 90-some% of what they use, they will not continue to exist if we don't find a way to take care of their needs. It's not a large amount of money, but would you be willing to work with us to try to find a way for these places where literally they're not political in nature? These are the folks that put out the emergency notifications. They talk about community events and so forth, but they're in very, very rural areas where there simply isn't any economy to support buying advertising on these stations. Would you work with us to try to find a way in those states that have got these types of radio stations to help them survive?
Yes, Senator. I think it's an important aspect of this. Our view is that we've structured this rescission, particularly with Corporation for Public Broadcasting. It's advanced appropriation. It's not this current funding, but also to preserve other funds in other agencies that could help with this particular need.
Okay, I won't waste any more of your time or the committee's time on that. I'll just simply say I want to meet with you and let's find a way to make sure these folks can survive. Second of all, on PEPFAR, I do think, as Senator McConnell indicated, soft power is very, very important. I'd much rather find a way to work with a number of our countries throughout Africa in particular that really do want to work with us rather than going directly to China or other entities that are out there looking. I'm not sure that I'm satisfied that we've done a good job yet of confirming that that money's going to be there. Would you be willing to sit down with a group of us who want to find a way to make sure that that PEPFAR funding is there and that it is being directed through appropriate channels to get to where it's truly needed?
Absolutely. We're definitely want to make sure that we open up the executive branch to be able to make sure it's not halted. If there's a belief that something is halted, to show you what we mean by life-saving treatment and also what we mean and don't mean by preventative care. Because this is, I think, one of the instances of generosity on behalf of the American people. $120 billion now since the program's inception, and I think they deserve to know it's actually going to life-saving care and not these NGOs.
Well, and as you know, I do disagree with a few of the provisions that are in the proposal, but that's a part of the process. And you have done this legally, but I really do want this appropriations process to get back on track. I'd really like you to be able to share with our members on both sides here that what your belief is, that there's a recognition that it does take 60 votes to get out of the Senate, that there are going to be some issues in there that we're going to have some disagreements on, but it's better to have an appropriations process that actually works its way across rather than continuing to doing the continuing resolutions that we're suffering with right now.
Absolutely no disagreement with that, Senator. And the fact that the President signed many bills that he wasn't wild about in the first term, specifically because that was the process. We are trying to learn from history and figure out what we can do on the mandatory side to make it not so much on this committee to solve every problem because it's a must-pass bill. And honestly, I think as an authorizer, I think you understand that. But this committee shouldn't have to carry every bill that Congress does.
Well, and I'm running out of time, but I just want to confirm one item, and that is if something is clearly authorized and it is appropriated, and it may have to be more specifically appropriated than what it has been in the past. But if that occurs, you recognize the need to get the project done. And if you can save some money, that is better yet. But you will follow the law and make sure that those programs are operated.
I think I can agree with that, Senator, in terms of how you frame the question. I mean, our view of being able to spend less than appropriation is based on efficiency, and also where the Congress or the President has clear constitutional duties, foreign affairs, and other things like that. But if you all give us a task and you think it costs $100 million, and we have the ability to do it for 80, for 200 years, presidents had the ability to spend a little bit less. And since, I believe, the 1970s, we've just pushed things out the door, and it has led to where we are. And I think I can say that we agree on that matter.
Well, I think the chairwoman for her forbearance here, and I thank you for that, and I think that's part on us as well. So $36 trillion in debt, we got to do something to rein this in. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Baldwin.